There we are. Hey everyone, how you doing today? So we have a little bit of exciting news in the world of Macs, right? Overnight I saw some things on Twitter about possibility of a new MacBook Pros being announced today. Now, we were originally scheduled to see them last fall. Let me check one thing real quick. I'm going to check the audio. Sounds completely fine. Let's see if nothing gets turned on. Sometimes I have these situations where I'm doing this live stream and all of a sudden one of my browsers will start playing back the audio. So hopefully that's not going to happen this time. So it's pretty exciting. And I was considering getting a new MacBook Pro, but the problem is the one I'm looking at is about $5,000, right? And the one that I have from 1 year ago, a little over 1 year ago, guess how much they want to give me for a trade-in? I have a 4 terabyte SSD, everything else is maxed out, memory's maxed out and stuff. They want $5,000 for a new one. Guess how much they want to give me for a trade-in on my 1-year-old MacBook Pro, which is running fine, We got a lot to talk about because they also introduced the Mac Mini. Now, is the Mac Mini, how does the Mac Mini M2 Pro compare to the Mac Studio Ultra or whatever the heck that thing is? How do they compare? Does anybody have any idea? I guess we don't yet, but I'm sure we will be getting lots of tests online. Eric Emmerich wins $1,200. Yeah, they wanted to give me $1,200 for this $5,000 MacBook Pro, close to $5,000 from 1 year ago. Apple wanted to give me $1,200. That ain't happening. Ain't no way. No way in heck am I going to do that. $1,200. Cost almost $5,000 last year. They want to give me $1,200 for it 1 year later. Is that, do you think your Macs are worth a year and they lose 3/4, 4/5 of their value? It's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. It used to be like half. They give you half, 50%. That was reasonable. That was reasonable. But $1,200 is no way, Apple. You are out of your mind. I am not going to buy a new MacBook Pro when you give me $1,200 for my old one. I'm sticking with my old one for right now. However, I'm looking at the Mac Mini this time. I've never owned a Mac Mini before. So I think the Mac Mini I was looking at was about $2,500, something like that. So that looks more reasonable to me. Look, I'm getting flashes still. Not sure what that's from. But that's more reasonable. $2,500 for an M2 Pro, I think. I think it's an M2 Pro. Much more reasonable. So let's go over some of the stuff that's going on there. One of the other interesting things, let me go over here. One of the interesting things about the presentation today was there's all new people presenting, right? John Turnus. I'm not familiar with him. I'm not sure who this woman is, but everybody is brand new. This guy, I don't recognize him. I don't recognize her. So it was very interesting that brand new presenters on the Apple actually did a video. Brand new presenters on the Apple event video. That was amazing. That was interesting. So it was an Apple event video. Tim Cook wasn't in it, which is fine. None of the Apple regulars were in the video that I didn't recognize anybody. So that's interesting. The other interesting thing is I checked this morning. They haven't updated Macs in mid-January since 2009. So here's what I presume. I presume they were going to do their Apple event last fall. They weren't ready. So they said, we'll push it out till January, but not the spring. There still might be a spring event with those goofy goggles and maybe the Mac Pro. So I'm just going to keep an eye out and see if Final Cut Pro is updated today. I don't know if it is or not. Let me just check real quick. I don't think so. Not so far. Let me just double check. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so Final Cut Pro has not been updated yet. Eric says, I've seen Turnus before. I think none of the others. I'm not sure what that means, Eric. I'm not sure what that means. Anyway, so let's go over some of the graphics that we have. Let's do that. M2 Pro, I don't really care about the plain M2. That does not interest me. We did get Final Cut Pro. Look, Final Cut Pro was on screen twice. I think twice. Very good, Apple. We also got Logic. And for the first time in a long time, I don't even remember the last time this happened, we got Motion. Motion was on screen for the first time in a very, very, I can't remember the last time they promoted Motion. I cannot remember. Oh, okay, the presenters of the new Mac video, got it. I think Apple will drop all the models at YouTubers' offices. I think you're right. I wish they'd drop one for me. I'd give it a shot. But listen, my MacBook Pro, my M1 Max, has been fantastic for the last year. Apple's not getting this machine for $1,200. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. I usually update when they gave me 50% of the cost of a new one. $1,200? That's a quarter. That's 25%. Apple, you think that your Macs lose 75% of their value in 1 year? That doesn't make any sense. That's ridiculous to say $1,200 for an almost $5,000 machine. That ain't going to happen. I'm not going to buy one of your Macs this time. Not now. Now, I may buy one later, but I'm not going to buy one and trade this in. I would keep this for $1,200. But anyway, maybe I'm waiting for all the reviews to come in. YouTube and things. Let's see how the Mac Mini stacks up to the MacBook Pro, to my MacBook Pro, to the Mac Studio. I don't want a Mac Studio. I don't need all that power. But the high-end Mac Mini, now that's something that very well may indeed be looking at. Because the one I spec'd, which is still expensive, of course, it was $2,500. Edgar Davis, Turnus was a presenter last time. Okay, I didn't recognize the face. What about everybody else? Everybody else is new. Everybody else was new. They were to me, so that's amazing. Garrett says, me neither. I'm still on a MacBook Pro with i9, runs like the wind. There you go. So yeah, so I'm not going to be trading in this. Usually, if I come into a big payday, maybe at some point, but Apple's not getting my MacBook Pro for $1,200. I guarantee you that. That is not going to happen. Apple, you're out of touch with reality. Whoever makes those prices, you are out of touch with reality. Absolutely out of touch. So let's go back to graphics here. Motion. On screen. Apple promoting Motion. Amazing. First time in a while, huh? Like I said, we did get Final Cut Pro on screen, I think twice or 3 times. I'm not sure which. So here's the M2. That's the M2 image. This is interesting. This is the so this is the Mac Mini. This is the one that I'd be interested in. Probably, I wouldn't get 8 terabytes of storage. I'd probably get 2 terabytes of storage. I don't need 4 terabytes on a Mac Mini because I have so much external things. I would get the high-end model, though, because it has 4 USB 4 ports. 4 USB 4 ports. I need 4. I need 4. Does that have MagSafe? Does the Mac Mini have MagSafe? I don't even know. Let's go see if we can find out. Let's go to apple.com. Look at the Mac Mini. Mac Mini. Mac Mini. Tech specs. Let's see what it has. So let's do this. Graphics. Is this the one? Yeah, there we go. So this is the Apple Store for the Mac Mini. It only comes in silver, apparently. Tech specs. Memory, storage, up to 8 terabytes. I think the 8 terabytes would be more than the Mac Mini itself costs. Display support, Thunderbolt digital video output, HDMI display output. Let me see what it says. Thunderbolt 4 digital, HDMI video playback, audio. Connections and expansions. 4 Thunderbolt ports, M2 Pro with support for DisplayPort Thunderbolt, USB 4, Gen 1, USB 3.1, Gen 2. They don't have USB 3.2 yet? That's disappointing. So it has a power port. Isn't that a power port right there? Just a standard, I think it is. So you don't have to use one of your USB, one of your Thunderbolt 4 ports for power. HDMI, Ethernet, and it has a power cable right there. Yeah. So there you go. 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports, power cables right there. So it doesn't, one of those is not taken up with power like my MacBook Pro is. It has Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3, Ethernet. You can get 100,000 or 10 gig as an option. I don't have anything that uses 10 gig. This is the first time that I've been interested in a Mac Mini, to be honest with you. Eric says, the graphics bump on the new Macs seem to be the strongest compared to the CPU. There you go. Mac Mini is interesting indeed. Yeah, because here's the thing. I only use my MacBook. The reason I got a MacBook Pro is when I go to NAB or the Creative Summit and I'm on the road and I need a MacBook. iPad, Mac OS doesn't work for a lot of the things that I do. So I need a MacBook Pro for that. So I got this one years ago and I brought it to NAB last year and I'm bringing it to NAB this year. It's completely fine. This thing is fantastic. I got the M1 Max, 4 terabyte drive. I'm not going to pay for another 4 terabyte drive. I'm keeping this one. So therefore, if I want to go up, get a desktop, the Mac Mini maybe, the $2,500 one, that's what I'll be looking at this point. Yeah. I wonder if the new Mac models will be available at the Final Cut Pro Summit tomorrow. Maybe we'll get one in our goodie bag. I don't think so. I do not think so. Good luck with that, right? Good luck with that. So that's interesting. 32, there's all the specs for it. Let's do this. Here's what Gert was just talking about. The virtual Final Cut Pro Global Summit is tomorrow, January the 18th. It's free. It's free. You can register over there at, what is it? Final Cut. Let me go pull that up so I have that. I have a bookmark somewhere. Let me just check here. Here we go. It is fcpglobalsummit.com/virtual day, virtual-day. And that's where you can go to the virtual day tomorrow. I'll be checking in there a few times. I'm not going to stay there the entire day, but I will be checking in a few times, a few different sessions and things. Absolutely. So this is the end of the U.S. tour. Here's the people that'll be there: Mark Spencer, Jeff Greenberg, Nick Haraz, Doc Rock. I know Doc Rock from Ecamm Live. Dylan Bates. I met Dylan, one of the Final Cut Pro Dylans at NAB last year. Hope to meet him again this year. George Edmonton, Josh Beal, Matt Cremaglia. I don't know Matt. Of course, my friend Ian Anderson, Josh Morgan, Michael Chabun, and Lee Herbert. They're going to be the speakers tomorrow. They got some new speakers there. That'll be very, very good. Here's the agenda, day agenda: introduction, certifications, film festival showcase, yada, yada, yada. You can go over there at Final Cut Pro, fcpglobalsummit.com, virtual-day, and read all about it. But do sign up for that. This will probably be the most popular summit so far this year. In association with Apple. Look at that. An association with Apple. That's always good, association with Apple. Looking forward to that. I'll be stopping in there a few places. Let's see what this Gert says. From left to right, power port, Ethernet 1 or 10-bit, 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports, HDMI port, and 2 USB-A ports. Okay, let's go back there and look at that. Hold on a second. Mac Mini. Let's go back, and we'll pull your graphic up again. There we go. Oops. Let me... From left to right, power port. So it's a power port. Right here is the power port. That's just a regular old power cord. I guess the power supply is in the Mac Mini this time, I imagine. Ethernet, Thunderbolt 4, HDMI, USB-A. This is the one that I'm interested in this time. I've never owned a Mac Mini. I've never owned one before. This is the first time that I've owned one, that I'm looking at it anyway. Am I in any hurry? No. No. My M1 Max is doing fantastically. It's doing fantastically. Gert says, I ordered the $49 ticket so I can rewatch everything. Most of the sessions are planned at the same time slot. Yeah, that's what they normally do. When we go to the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit in person in Cupertino, they have 3 sessions a lot of times. 1, 2, 3. You have to decide on which one you're going to go to live, which one you're going to watch later in the evening, or if you're going to watch it offline. A lot of times there's 3 sessions, a lot of times at the same time. You don't know which one do I go, which one do I go. So the idea that they have recordings available, it's a $49, Gert says, ticket so I can rewatch it, but it's also you also get a goodie bag, right? Some kind of an e-goodie bag, something like that. And Gert says he needs to sleep. I have to work during the day. Most of the sessions are on or after midnight here in the Netherlands. $49 was no question for me to order more than enough interesting. Yes, it'd be a lot of cool things. So if Apple is lowballing their trade-in values, where does one go to sell their Mac now aside from eBay? Dave, Good question. I don't like eBay. First off, they're charging 10% now. Plus, I don't know what's going on. Are they going to report if you sell something or something, you have to report that as income on your tax return? You get double hit? That's ridiculous. So I won't do eBay either. Personally, I don't like shipping my stuff out, okay? Because there's scams going on. Somebody gets it, said they never got it. They file a claim on PayPal, and it's a big mess. I don't do that. What I do personally, I live in the Baltimore, Washington area. So I got Delaware, Pennsylvania, D.C., Maryland, even West Virginia. I've had people come. I sell it on Facebook Marketplace, and they have to come and pick it up in person. And cash. You got to bring me some cash. If you bring me some cash, there's room for a little discount. That's what I do personally. With rare exceptions, I sell a few things. I might sell something that's not that expensive online, but it's just too many scammers out there. They can say they never got it, it came damaged, it wasn't what they wanted. Yes, you get a goodie bag with that for the price, absolutely. And eBay reports you to the IRS. That's what I've heard. If you sell something, they're counting that as income now? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's not income. It's something you sold. Now my tax guy said they're not going to do it this year because it's too confusing and stuff. I'll find out. I had some PayPal stuff happen. Yeah, that's a good idea. So Facebook Marketplace and something like a MacBook, I'm not shipping it. With rare exception, for somebody that I knew online, okay, that I've known, and they said, hey, I'm interested in your MacBook. Okay, somebody that I know, not to strangers. Not to strangers. That ain't going to happen. I'll keep it. $1,200. I don't need another MacBook. I don't need one. This one's fine. It'll last me for years. Traveling, I only need it for traveling. Like I said, NAB coming up in the mid-April, April the 16th. I'm planning on being there. CES, by the way, in Las Vegas had 117,000 people, more than they had pre-COVID, if the numbers hold, if they go through an audit and hold true. That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. So let's see what else we have here. That's the virtual day over there. So it's this is interesting. 2 times faster editing in Final Cut Pro. This is the second place that they showed Final Cut Pro in the presentation, excuse me. They showed it twice, maybe 3 times. Maybe somebody can check on this image and see if there's anything different about it. They did not mention a new version of Final Cut yet. They did not mention that. Let's see. I'm just keep on checking. Nope. Final Cut is just same old Final Cut. No update yet. Would it surprise me to see a new version of Final Cut alongside these MacBook Pros? Sure. I mean, no, it wouldn't surprise me at all. We got a new version of Final Cut coming out for sure, right? I mean, I'm sure we do this spring. I think closer to NAB. I think that would be perfect time. They released ProRes RAW at 1 NAB is what they did. They released ProRes RAW around the last one of the last NABs, 2018 maybe. Did you think the Apple lineup is becoming all the same thing? No differentiation between the products? I don't know. The Mac Mini, the Mac Studio, the MacBook Pros, the MacBook Air, and what about the Mac Pro? That's still coming, right? I mean, people were talking about Apple doing just a press release. Well, that's not what happened, is it? They put out a video, just like a normal Mac event video. They put out a video here, so they did some production on it, right? So this was not just a press release. And it's Interesting, because they didn't wait for a spring event. Do I think they're going to have a spring event? Probably. For those glasses, the 3D, whatever. I mean, not the 3D, the virtual glasses, the thing I would say. The only odd product in Apple's lineup is that 13-inch MacBook Pro M2, and that was the one that was ready first, right? That's why it came out WWDC last year. So yeah, that is an odd thing. If you're going to get a MacBook Pro, I mean, some people like the smaller ones. I don't. I barely like the 16. I mean, you guys and gals have seen my screen on numerous occasions. Let me see if I can pull that up. Here we go. So look. As a matter of fact, let me go into preview mode. Where did my preview mode go? Oh, it went somewhere. I don't know where it went. I put on the other screens, I guess. There it is. Here we go. I'll pull that over here. So this is I have a program window and a preview window. So am I going to go to a 13-inch MacBook Pro with all this? I don't think I'm going to. I think I like this. This is an old 34-inch LG monitor that I've had for years. It is Thunderbolt. Okay, it is Thunderbolt. So I connect Thunderbolt 2, I think it's Thunderbolt 2. So I connect from my MacBook to an OWC Thunderbolt dock. Out of the Thunderbolt dock, I take Thunderbolt out into a converter, Thunderbolt 3 to Thunderbolt 2 adapter, and that goes into this monitor, this giant monitor. But you can see, let me see if I can point the right direction. Right direction. So over here, no, I can't. Over here, down in the lower left-hand corner, is the statistics over here, the internet statistics of as I'm streaming live. This is Ecamm Live, by the way, everyone. This is I love this program, except that I still get a glitch when I put comments on. Ecamm Live, if you're watching, still getting that glitch. I filed a report, never heard back from you yet, so let's get this worked out. I'm not saying it's not my setup. It could be, but I still have to get it worked out. So, and I got audio over here. Over here is my audio meters. You can see me. So I can monitor the audio, make sure it's coming through okay live. A lot of good stuff. Take that out of live demo. There's space for a new Mac Pro. The performance needs to be over these new powerful products. Well, they said they're going to, when they introduced the Mac Studio last spring, they said we have one more Mac coming ported over to the Apple Silicon, and that's the Mac Pro. Now, I've heard reports, I'm sure you've seen them as well on Twitter and places, that the new Mac Pro, the M2 Mac Pro, is going to be in the same form factor as the 2019 Mac Pro, that gigantic tower with all those slots. I have one. I have one. I bought it when it came out. That the new Mac Pro is going to be the same form factor. That seems odd. Is that a manufacturing thing? There's going to be a lot of empty space inside. They're not going to fill it up. I have 8 PCIe slots in my Mac Pro. 8 PCIe slots. How does Apple Silicon work with PCIe slots? I mean, because the graphics and everything's built right in. I mean, storage, perhaps, yes. Some kind of a video interface, perhaps, yes, absolutely. Need to see some real-life use benchmarks of new Mac Pros before deciding to upgrade, absolutely. I'm not going to get one. I'm not planning on it. I have a feeling the Mac Pro is going to be all about card accessories, similar in style to Afterburner, but other types of functionality like custom Apple graphics. How does that work with the Apple Silicon, though? Cutting red 8K, always looking for more speed and power, absolutely. If that's what you do, I agree 100%. That's what you need. That's what you need. Let me pull this up. So, as usual, 2 times faster. Let me see what else we have here. Be right back. Scarlet background. It's over here on my. Let me pull this up. So this is the price point. The Mac Pro. $19.99, not bad to start with. $24.99, once again, not bad. Now here's the thing. When I spec'd my MacBook Pro, I went up to 4 terabytes. If I got $1,200 on a $24.99 one, that's more attractive. That would be more attractive to me. So if that's the case. But then I got to deal with low storage space and stuff. Yeah. So we'll have to see if that's the way it works out. So we saw that. Let me pull this up here. Here's Final Cut Pro once again on the presentation. And here is Apple's favorite coloring system, DaVinci Resolve. They always show DaVinci Resolve. This is DaVinci Resolve running on the new MacBook Pros, right? Let's turn that off. Here's the specifications of the M2 Max, 30% faster, 30%, 67 billion. When they say 67 billion transistors, I don't even know what that means. I have no idea in the real world what that means. Do you? I don't know. Interestingly, it's still the 5 nanometer technology. I thought it was going down to 4. Quick sidetrack, or maybe not so quick. Now that Panasonic released the S5 X2, are you still going to get a Sony mirrorless? No. At this point, absolutely not. I'm going to get the S5 2X in May. I'm not going to, it's very equivalent to the Sony S4, which I was looking at. The Sony S4 body is $24.99, I think. The S2 X has so many good features that the S4 does not, the Sony S4 does not have. 6K internal open gate recording is a great one. It exports RAW over HDMI, so you can record ProRes RAW over HDMI, and from what I understand, Blackmagic RAW over HDMI with an Atomos recorder. You got to have the recorder, but it outputs RAW over HDMI. It has a license built in. $2,200. That's the one I'll be getting, but there's no event that I have to get it for until next fall, maybe, for the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, if that is indeed in Cupertino in person again, and I have a feeling that it's going to be. So to answer your question, no, I am not going to get the Sony unless, this would be the distinction, if Sony updated the A7S III to the A7S4, or the boxy one that they have, the same model, the FX3 to FX4, or if they updated the Sony A7 IV to A7 V, then I would take another look at Sony. I don't mind paying the extra $1,000 for like an A7S IV, but I ain't going to pay the extra $1,000 for an A7S III because it's 2 years old already. The technology is already 2 years old. I'm not going to do that. I don't believe in paying that full price for old technology. So yeah, the Panasonic looks fantastic. Another thing about the Panasonic, you can do anamorphic. You can shoot anamorphic. It has a 6K internal sensor. You can go full open gate with it. So you can shoot 6K video internally. You can shoot ProRes RAW not ProRes RAW, excuse me. You can shoot ProRes internally. there's a whole bunch of features for the Panasonic S2, whatever it is, Mark II, whatever it is. But I am getting the X version. I will wait. DaVinci Resolve looks so beautiful on large screens. Ruggiero, yes, it does. It absolutely does. That is a lot of transistors in one chip. But look, when I was a youngster, when I was in grade school, I was a ham radio operator. One of the things I used to do, I used to hand solder transistors on circuit boards as ham radio operator training. Heath kits, do you remember those? The Heath kits, you used to get little kits and you'd solder actual transistors, single transistors on circuit boards. Oh, you're the first person I thought of when Panasonic made the 2X announcement. I said to myself, I bet he's getting it. You're absolutely correct. That thing looks phenomenal. That thing looks phenomenal. There's so many features. Let me just pull this up here that... Okay, here we go. Okay, here's what the S2 has that Sony doesn't have. Shutter angle. You can set it to 180-degree shutter angle. Sony doesn't have that for some reason after all these years. 6K 10-bit in-camera recording, ProRes RAW and B-RAW via HDMI. I've heard B-RAW, so I think it's going to be there. Via HDMI out to an Atomos recorder. Anamorphic filming, superior IBIS, raw output over HDMI, constant firmware feature updates, external monitor, and viewfinder at the same time. Apparently with Sony, you can't get your viewfinder and an external monitor to display at the same time. That would be aggravating, but in the Panasonic you can. Has active cooling with the fan, so no overheating, open gate, full sensor readout. You can load 10 custom LUTs in that thing. And you can burn it into the video if you want to. USB power and charging at the same time. That's another thing. Hot swap USB cards, USB SSD recording. That's another one. And there's a 96 megapixel high resolution mode. It blends the sensor 4 times, I guess, and gets 96 megapixels. Are you going to attend the Final Cut Pro Global Summit tomorrow? Yes, I will be there at some of the sessions, absolutely. I'll be there first thing in the morning, and then I'll be there at some of the sessions. I'll say hi to anybody that's going to be there. I see some footage and test and looks amazing. It absolutely does. The other thing, since I'm going to be, the Panasonic is the L-mount lens series. I don't have any L-mounts, don't have any Sony lenses, so I got to buy into one or the other. Unless Sony comes out with a new camera in that price range between now and May, June, over the summer, I'll be getting the Panasonic. There's too many features that it has that the Sony doesn't have. The new phase detect autofocus looks amazing. I've seen multiple tests, and it's just as good as Sony's auto feature, autofocus. And this is only the version 1. With firmwares, they can change things and modify. The autofocus is in the sensor. The sensor points is actually in the sensor itself. So older versions of the Panasonic camera will not be able to do that. But so that's one of the things I was waiting for. I think the low light performance is going to be dramatically better on this camera. I think they have dual ISO, but I think it's 640 and 4000 for the Panasonic. But I've also seen 10,000 something and 12,000. It looks pretty good. So that's good enough for what I'm looking for. I just want better low light than my GH5 has. I filmed at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, and some of the rooms in the presentations were dark, so I could not, it was very grainy. So I could not, I had to, work with the footage a bit. So I don't want to deal with that anymore. If I go to the Creative Summit, if they have it in Cupertino next year, and I'll bring my new Panasonic camera, or if once again I'm not. This is not coming out. That's one of the best things about it. It's not coming out till the end of May. I got months to decide. I won't be taking it to NAB. I'll be taking my iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is fine. That's all I took last time was the 13 Pro Max. So let me just look up something here real quick. Final Cut Pro. Yep, tomorrow. So here's one thing I want to talk about while we're here.
When I say that, I mean...
This is my documentary, the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit documentary that I did. It starts with, look, this is when I first tested, my first live stream for the Creative Summit. I tested it here at that studio, very first time. So I tested it right here. Let me pull that up again graphically. I tested it right there. I just did a test stream because I didn't know. I never streamed live before. So I actually did a test stream in 2016 here before I went to Cupertino. And then 3 years later, here I am on the flight to Cupertino, 3 years of FCP Creative Summits. Anyway, there's a documentary on my YouTube channel, Richard Taylor TV. It's called the Final Cut Pro FCPX Creative Summit, the documentary. This is the first version, part 1. I'm hoping that I do not have to do a version 2 next fall. I'm hoping they continue with the tradition of going in person to the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. That's what I'm hoping. If they do a Creative Summit next year in Cupertino, look, we were promised twice we were going to the spaceship campus. 2018 and 2019, they said we're going to the spaceship campus. You know how many times we got there? 0. We never got there. So it would be nice to get to the spaceship campus in 2023. Now, of course, events could prevent that, but if everything kind of stays the way it is, they had 117,000 people at CES. They had 54,000 people at NAB last year. Use any cautions that you feel necessary. If you want to use a mask or whatever. Way before COVID, when I went to NAB, I was a constant hand washer. I've heard people getting sick at NAB before COVID. They call it the NAB flu or whatever. People getting sick all the time. I constantly wash my hands. I'm aware of where my hands are. I don't keep them away from my face. Shake hands. Don't bring them near my face. Your doc is a good compliment to the Off the Tracks doc. Now, Rogerio, did you know that I was a co-editor on the Off the Tracks doc? Yeah. I co-edited that with Brad Olson. So, yeah, it is a nice little companion piece. I have part 2, if needed. If we do the Creative Summit in person, I don't need it next year, but I'll be there filming like I will be at NAB. I'll be at NAB filming, doing live streaming, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to put up a little frame on my... Am I going to do that? Oh, I guess I can't. Nope, I can't do it. Okay. I was going to put up a frame, but I can't do that without messing things up. So, who's getting a new MacBook Pro? I mean, I guess you can get a really good one. I guess you can get a really good one for like $3,000, $3,500. Rogerio says, yes, he bought the doc. Congrats. Thank you very much. Brad Olson, a good friend of mine, will be glad that you bought it. Yeah, it's a good documentary. We worked on it for a couple of years. We worked on it. So Brad and I are, of course, Final Cut Pro friends. typically at NAB, Brad will come pick me up and drive us around to any Final Cut Pro events. It's too early to know about Final Cut Pro events for NAB this year. I don't know of any. Hopefully the Super Meet happens. I got a message into Dan Berube. Last year was fantastic. It was on a rooftop restaurant, so there's no roof. So everybody was basically outside, but it was a restaurant, and it was nice. The weather was like perfect. I didn't stay too far from there. I stay pretty close to the convention center, so this was great. I'd like to see it go back to that same place. It was really good. There were no Final Cut Pro specific events like there were in 2017 and 2018. 2016 too. 2016, LumaForge rented a space across from the convention center at some hotel and had 3 days of Final Cut Pro events, sessions right across the street. That was 2016. 2017, Apple presented in the convention center in a special classroom that they worked out a deal with FMC, Future Media Concepts. So Apple presented in 2017. That's when they announced the 2 million Final Cut Pro users. 2018, same place, in the convention center. Apple presented, this is the Final Cut Pro team. When I say Apple, it's the Apple Final Cut Pro team, marketing and stuff. They presented for a few hours in the convention center, the Las Vegas Convention Center, and in 2018, they announced 2.5 million users. So between 2017, 2000, and 2018, 2017 is 2 million, 2018 is 2.5 million. Final Cut Pro gained 500,000 users in 1 year. What do you think it's done since then? They haven't had any numbers since then. Probably 4 million, right? Maybe more. Maybe 4.5 to 5. I have the M1 Mac Mini. I'm thinking to update for Mac Studio or the new M2 Mac Mini. I like the Mac Mini. Personally, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some online comparisons between the Mac Studio and the Mac Mini. I like the Mac Mini. I like the size of it. I like the fact that it's small and portable, has 4 Thunderbolt ports, etc. Let's see what it can do. That's with the M2 Pro. The M2 Pro Mac Mini looks like the sleeper hit of the year. I agree with you, and it's only started. It's only first started. I'm not going to get a Mac Pro. I got the 2019 Mac Pro because I wanted a desktop, and I liked the form factor a lot. I'm not planning on getting the M2 Max, M2 Ultra, whatever the heck it's going to be, Mac Pro. I'm not planning on that. I'm going to stick to, if I get it, I'll look at the Studio versus the Mac Mini, the M2 Mac Mini Pro. It has the M2 Pro Mac Mini, I guess that's what they call it. When I need it, I don't need it right now. I'm fine. I got the top end M1 Max MacBook Pro from 1 year ago. It's doing fantastic. I don't need it. So what are you going to buy? Who's going to buy anything? Are you going to buy this? The M2 Max. That's what it is, the M2 Max. Oh, that's in the Mac. That's not the Mac Pro. That's not the Mac Mini, though, right? There's that. M2 Pro. Here we go. Here's the Mac Mini. Here's the Mac Mini. So it comes with the M2 and the M2 Pro. It doesn't come with the M2 Max. The M2 Max is only the MacBook Pro. It's only the MacBook Pro. What are you going to get? Is anybody buying anything? Is anybody buying anything? What about this? These things, I'm sure they're fantastic machines. These are the MacBook Pros. I'm sure these are fantastic, beautiful, powerful machines. I don't anticipate getting one of those unless I come into a large amount of money. Which, yeah, it could happen. Looking at the 14-inch MacBook Pro M2 Pro, what a mouthful, more portable, absolutely. Garrett says, nope. So what do you think is going on with Apple introducing these in the middle of January? January is kind of a slow month. I mean, I'm sure they've made all this headlines. I mean, I'm glad they did. I'm glad they didn't artificially wait for a spring event, because they can be making money the whole time. And I'm glad they did it, but why this year, I wonder? I think they probably just were planning on having them out last fall, and something happened. They couldn't get enough of them made or whatever, having some other issues. So they said, well, we'll put them out the first part of next year. Let me just check and make sure Apple's Final Cut Pro has not been updated yet. Let's see. We're checking. Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro. Nope, not yet. Not yet. So we're fine there. It would not surprise me to see an update for Final Cut Pro. Well, I've been saying for months, 10 point, it's not that far of a stretch. 10.7, Final Cut Pro 10.7/11, in case they go jump up to 11, will be out this spring, okay? Now, this spring for Final Cut Pro, they could have announced an update today. So far, they haven't. What time is it? 1:03. They could have announced an update today. They have not announced an update to Final Cut Pro so far. It could come out at any time if they have one ready for these MacBook Pros. But they didn't really say anything about an updated version of Final Cut Pro. If they are indeed planning a spring event, and I don't know why they would not be, with the virtual glasses, is anybody getting those? I won't be getting those. But is anybody else getting those? Probably the Mac Pro. Will they update the Studio? I think that's a little too soon, right? 1 year? I think they'll have to wait a little bit before that. They're clearing the deck for the Mac Pro, Mac Studio update, 15-inch MacBook Air, and Apple AR VR headset reveal. Who's getting a set of Apple AR VR headset? Who's getting one of those? I'm not going to be getting one. It's nothing that I'm interested in. But I'm sure people have been waiting a long time for that. I'm saying I'm not going to get one. At least not now. I mean, maybe when they improve them and they get smaller, and they just look goofy to me. People wearing those things, if you on the outside, this looks, those big goggle things. But it's fine if you like that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm sure they're going to be good. Although I don't know if the first generation version will be. I'd wait for a generation or two. Rogerio says, I think that is preparation for WWDC upcoming announcements. That's interesting. But before WWDC, we have NAB on April the 16th. Absolutely no virtual glasses. I don't want to sit around with a headset. That's fine. It's not for me either. I mean, at some point, maybe when they get advanced enough, maybe. We'll see. The Studio, in my humble opinion, would be better buy than beefing up a Mini. Okay, but I'm not a big fan of the form factor of the Studio. I understand what you're saying. I like the sleekness of the Mini. I'm sure people will be going online and comparing the last year's Studio with the beefed up Mac Mini. I love the little skinny platform of the Mini. I like the way it looks. The Studio is like big and clunky, so that's just aesthetics. I forgot to mention an update. HomePod is also forthcoming per Mark Gurman. Yeah, I bought the original HomePod. I don't use it that much, so that doesn't really excite me that much. I haven't bought an Apple Watch yet, so I'm on the So I'm a no on the headset. So I don't update my Apple Watch every year. I update it every 3 years, every 4 years, something like that. Here's what I use my Apple Watch for. When I make coffee in the morning, I time it. I use an AeroPress, the reverse AeroPress, and I time it for 3 minutes. So I have a timer set up there. That's what I use my watch for. When I travel, I like looking at a watch. I like that rather than pulling out my phone and looking at the phone. So I like the watch. Mine's 2 years old, maybe. It's completely fine. I have the original Apple Watch, the Zero model. I have that still. It still runs. So, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not planning on buying the Mac Pro, the new M2 Mac Pro. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I mean, like I said, if I came into some money, I would consider it. But I don't need it right now. This M1 Max is fantastic. I really, really enjoy it. It edits fine. It's smooth. The updates are fine, although something's going on with the with Ecamm Live or something. It might be the Cam Link 4K. You can see it keeps glitching there for me. I don't know. Cam Link 4K? Maybe. I don't know what it is. So let's go back real quick. The virtual day, free tomorrow, January 18th. Join with everybody worldwide. Join with everybody worldwide tomorrow virtually. Now, the interesting thing is, so they have a mix and mingle networking night. Okay? Now, you would think that would be in person, but it's not. It's virtually. I'm not sure. I'll have to see how that works. 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. I will have to see how that works. I'm not sure. Mix and mingle. I guess mingle online. So Apple is presenting tomorrow this panel, Building Your Career with Final Cut Pro. Dan Sabota is from Apple. So he's moderated by Dan Sabota. And then Gabriel Spalding is going to be mixed in there somehow. I'm not sure how. He's going to be in there. He's in the documentary a little bit, in the Final Cut Pro documentary. But this is where you want to go. Tomorrow, January 8th, starts at 8 o'clock. With Nick Haraz, Jeff Greenberg, Dylan Bates, friend of mine I've met over there at NAB last year. Doc Rock, Josh Morgan, Ian Anderson, Matt Smaglia, George Edmondson, Michael Shaban, Jeff Greenberg, Abba Shapiro, Lee Herbert, Mark Spencer, Josh Beal, etc. There's a bunch of good classes there. So look, it's free. It's free. If you can't attend, you can buy the package and then watch the recordings after the fact. Eric says, could be an M3 Mac Pro at this pace. Yeah, it could be. I mean, I'm not, the Mac Pro doesn't really interest me at this. It interested me in 2019 for sure. I really enjoyed using it for a couple years. Headset for games might be interesting, but gaming one for Facebook or any other social media platform was not interesting at all for me. I think Ian Anderson was talking about editing in Final Cut Pro with the headset. I wonder how much of Final Cut development is hinging on the rumored touchscreen MacBook Pro. You know, I've been saying for years, people have said they're not going to ever have a touchscreen MacBook Pro, and I said, yeah, they're going to. The screens will be cheaper. There's no real downside. You don't have to use it. You don't have to use a touchscreen MacBook Pro if you don't want to do the touchscreen. But I found myself multiple times over the years trying to get QuickTime to play by touching the screen, touching the play button on the screen. And I'm thinking, why isn't this playing? Then I realized, oh, wait a minute. That's not an iPad. Now, the other thing is, Where is that? I looked for it last time. I didn't find it. The other thing is I really like the Apple Pencil a lot for pinpoint, drawing and stuff. So will the touchscreen MacBook Pro have a pencil support? It sure should. It sure should. Maybe that's Final Cut Pro 11 when that comes out. Don't know. I don't think we're waiting on it now. I can't justify spending the amount of money for a MacBook Pro. Neither can I. Not now. I don't need it. What do you think about 360 cameras? Just bought an Insta360. They look interesting in some circumstances, especially if you can choose like one of the fields of view as just a regular video. You can choose that. Steve Martin was into that a couple years ago. It'd be great to have Apple's release new products and available the same day in their stores. I think these are available this Friday. I think they're available pretty quick. I hate fingerprints on my screen. I understand, but what do you do with the iPad, and the iPhone? They get fingerprints, right? No, I understand what you're saying, but you don't have to touch the screen, except maybe sometimes if you want to. And you can use an Apple Pencil to do things. I like the touchpad on the MacBook Pro. I can't see reaching all the way across to the screen most of the time, a few times. But the point is, the touch screens are coming down in price. They're the same price as a regular one. They have to rework the Mac OS. They have to rework their apps to work on a touch system. I think that's a few years off. Maybe they will give the Mac Pro a giant touchpad on the front. Well, remember the circular cylinder Mac Pros, the trash cans? The good thing about the trash cans is they had a bagel warmer on top. You can fit a bagel in that space on top and it'll keep it warm for you, or melt the butter or cream cheese, whatever it is. That's the best thing about those. I wasn't a big fan of those. I didn't buy one of those either. I used iMacs during that time period. Now, what's going on with the iMac? Are we stuck at 24 inches? We're not going to go above 24? I think we'll see a 27 or even larger with the M2 Pro iMac or whatever they want to call it. I don't know for a fact. So nobody's buying anything somebody's going to buy a Mac Mini, somebody's going to buy a MacBook Pro. I think we had one MacBook Pro. Let's check on Final Cut and see if they open it up, see if it's for sale again. For sale. Let's see if it's for sale. See if it's been updated. It has not been updated. Final Cut Pro has not been updated. So, what do you think? What do you think? Put my name up there. My name's Richard Taylor, of course. You can find me over there at YouTube, Richard Taylor TV, on Facebook, Richard Taylor TV, on Twitter, Richard Taylor TV, Instagram, Richard Taylor TV. I even have a Twitch account. I never go on there, except I think we're broadcasting live there right now. Richard Taylor TV. Remember that Steve said touchscreens don't work after a few hours, your arm will hurt. Yes. You know what else Steve Jobs said? Steve Jobs took out an iPod and he said, who would want to watch a video on a small screen like this? Right? He also said that. It's like, look over here, don't look over here. But Steve Jobs also is not around anymore. In those days, it made more sense. I don't see myself touching the screen. But I think they have one working in Cupertino, testing things to see which way they're going to go. I really don't care if it has a touch screen. I don't see myself using it that much. But something like LumaFusion, for example, if you have an M1 Mac, you can already run LumaFusion on your Mac. And LumaFusion was built for touch. You know, DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut Pro were not built for touch. they have to be ported over if they come to the iPad. Well, DaVinci Resolve's already here. LumaFusion was indeed built for touch. It was indeed built for touch. So that might work better. That might work better on a touchscreen MacBook Pro. Nobody is not excited about today's announcements? Nobody's really that excited about them? Let's see if we go back there. There's the Mac Mini. What else do we have? So here's the Creative Summit. We did visit Apple Park Visitor Center, which was really nice. We had a great introduction there. That's across the street from the Apple campus. So here we are here. Look at that. We're on, are we going to get Inception? I was looking for, let me see if I can pull up. Well, I'll get back to that. Steve was correct in his prediction. Steve was wrong to predict the appearance of humps in iPhone users. The user will decide what will happen. Yeah, I don't know. On the Windows side, are touchscreen laptops even that popular? I'm excited about the new M2 MacBooks. If I do switch, I will go for the M2 Max. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely get the M2 Max. Absolutely. I'm excited about them. But since the MacBook Pro that I want is almost $5,000, that tempers my excitement a bit, especially since I spent that amount of money on this one last year. But the Mac Mini, the M2 Pro Mac Mini, I'm more interested in. I don't need anything right now. But it's hard to resist sometimes, right? It's hard to resist being, since I like Apple products. Final Cut Pro, plugins, I have the same thing. Oh, speaking of plugins, let me pull this up. Let me see. Oh, iCloud. I'm going to pull this up real quick and show you this cool little plugin. Just came out. I think it's in here. Oh, so one of the things that we found, let me pull this up. One of the things that somebody over on one of the Final Cut Pro groups says, let me pull this up. It's a nice comment. MacBook Pro. So this is the nice comment that I saw this morning. The most important addition to next to twice as much possible RAM is new MacBook Pro models feature HDMI 2.1 port instead of a 2.0 port, which is what I have, which means 10-bit. What does it mean? It means 10-bit 4K at 60p given the right cable. My biggest letdown with the M1 Pro Max machines, they only give 10-bit 422 at 4K and 60p. Perfect point. Perfect point. So I want to bring this up and we'll look at this for a second. This is my friend Dason Ortiz. He has a brand new plugin for Final Cut Pro, hand-drawn arrows, which is very cool. I'm going to turn the audio off. Turn the audio off. So it's really cool. You can make all these different arrows. He has a very cool interface. It works inside of Final Cut. I think it has some kind of tracking if you want to do it. I don't know about you, but I love arrows. I use arrows all the time when I do tutorials. So he has a HUD that comes up, and you can choose. If you click on it over here, oh, you can't see because let me pull this out of the way. You can click on it over here and turn on this HUD and select it's not a HUD, he calls it what does he call it? He calls it something else, and you can turn it on, and you can see what error you have, of course, all the things you can do. So this is pretty cool. It's over there at motionmastertemplates.com. motionmastertemplates.com. Brand new, just came out. Just came out like a day or two ago. Yeah, what about Apple Motion? They showed Apple Motion at the Apple presentation today. First time that's happened in a long time, right? It is for me. I don't recall them showing Apple Motion on screen before, so that was absolutely interesting. Here, look at this. Apple Motion. They showed it. By the way, I love this keyframe graph that Apple Motion has. I wish somehow they could port that over to Final Cut, but it really does a good job. It's a very sophisticated and complex, and you can turn things on and off. So I'm excited. New MacBook Pros, the new Mac M2 Pro, Mac Mini. It looks pretty darn good. All right, everyone, I think I'm going to get out of here and get back to, don't forget, virtual day tomorrow over there at fcpglobalsummit.com. Connect with everybody. It's free. All these people will be presenting. We have some new faces here: Doc Rock, Dylan Bates, George Edmondson, plus the regulars over there tomorrow. Plus, there's going to be somebody from Apple is going to be presenting at one of the panels. So let me just check and see if there's anything else going on. Yeah, back to, there we go. There we go. Nothing really. Oh, today's the last day to sign up. I think you have to sign up today. I don't think you're going to be able to sign up tomorrow. So get over there and sign up. Let me just check over here. See what's going on. I don't see anything. Anything else you want to talk about before I get out of here? I have other things I have to do today. Thanks very much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm excited. I'm going to keep an eye out for Final Cut, see if it gets updated today. I'm not saying that it will, but just in case. George produces a lot of videos for Motion VFX. Yes, I believe he does. I think I've seen some of those. He also did a presentation at the LA Creative Summit stop. So here's the deal. The Global Summit, they changed from what it was. When it's the Creative Summit, they have a multi-day event, 3 days at least, sometimes 4, centered at Cupertino because Apple Campus is in Cupertino. The Final Cut Pro team is in Cupertino. The Spaceship Campus is in Cupertino. One Infinite Loop is in Cupertino. It makes perfect sense to do the Creative Summit there. So, and instead of a global summit, when they had 10 different cities scheduled, it was 10 different cities come together at the Creative Summit. All around the world, Final Cut Pros came together for 3 days. Lunch together, breakfast together, chat together, talk about new product announcements. There was no new product announcements in 2019 from Final Cut, but in 2016 was 10.3, was announced the day before. 2017, 10.4. 1 year later, 10.4 came out right around the Creative Summit. It didn't come out. It was announced. We were allowed to talk about it. It came out in December. 1 year later, 10.4.4 came out at the Creative Summit. 2019, zip. There was no new update. Even if there's no new update, I'd still like to have a Creative Summit in person. They're a lot of fun. Check out the documentary I have over there on my YouTube channel. You'll get it's 47 minutes. You'll see what it's like to be at a Creative Summit if you've never been to one. All right, everyone, I'm going to head on out of here. I got things to get ready for. If you don't have any other questions, I'll wait another minute or two. And I'm excited about the new M2 Max, MacBook Pros. I'm probably the most excited about the Mac Mini. I like the form factor. It's got 4 Thunderbolt ports. I like it a lot. I'm not going to, I'd be very surprised if I got a MacBook Pro at this point. Now, who knows? I'm not trading this in for $1,200 though. That ain't going to happen. That is not going to happen. I would sell it locally. I would sell it locally. I live in the central area, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., Maryland. Even West Virginia is not that far. So there's like 5 states, and I'm within an hour probably to all those different places. So if somebody really wanted a MacBook Pro for a good price. As a matter of fact, I still have Apple Care on it. I have Apple Care by the month or by the year, I think it is. So it's still covered with Apple Care. Anybody else have any other comments? Any other comments about Apple's announcements today? Keep an eye out in Final Cut Pro in the App Store. See if it gets updated. It's going to be updated between now and NAB. I bet you. Between now and NAB it's going to be updated. I can't imagine the virtual glasses having any connection to Final Cut. Who the heck knows? But the Mac Pro, for sure. Plus, I think if 10.7 was ready, they would have announced it today. Maybe it's not ready. They'll wait for the Mac Pro, the big Mac Pro, the big one with the M2 chips in it. All right, everyone, I'm going to get on out of here. Thanks. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. And my name's Richard Taylor, as you know. Follow me at YouTube over there, Richard Taylor TV. Subscribe if you don't mind. What do you mean? A guy dropped a 50,000 Mac Pro for trade-in? You sell that somewhere on Twitter? That's ridiculous. I would never have spent $50,000 on a Mac Pro. I spent $9,000, I think, something, with a lot of stuff. I got 2 terabyte SSD, advanced graphics and all that stuff. He got an offer of $970 for the $52,799 Mac Pro. Now, there you go. Those prices were outrageous for that high-end Mac Pro. Unless, if I was a company, I would do it. I mean, if I needed it, recording studio, film studio, whatever, perhaps at that point, but not for me. I don't need it. So even though I am excited, I'm not planning on buying one. Last year, I was much more excited. I went to the local Apple store in Columbia, in the Columbia Mall, and bought mine online. I bought it online in the morning, and they had it reserved, set up an appointment, and drove there. He just wanted to know what he would receive for it. Well, yeah, forget that. That's a $50,000 price drop in 3 years, 4 years, 2019 to 2013. To 2023. So 4 years, yeah, that's ridiculous. Well, they were overpriced. They were very specialized. Like I said, I paid $9,500 for mine. It was, I think it was $10,000, and I got, the first year they came out, if you bought it on Apple Card, you got 5% cash back. So I got 5% off of that amount. Plus there was something else I did. I forget what it was. So I got a $10,500 machine down to $9,500, and I enjoyed it for years. I'm probably going to keep it. I'm not letting it go for $1,000. That'd be ridiculous. I'm keeping it. I'll keep it. I'll use it for some things. I'll maybe put it in my studio downstairs. All right, everyone. My name's Richard Taylor. If you don't mind going over there to YouTube and subscribing, Richard Taylor TV on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch TV, and Instagram. I don't post much on Instagram, very little, but I got all the social media accounts, and I'm also on Mastodon somewhere. I don't know how in the heck that works. I just don't know. Oh, by the way, the Final Cut Pro Radio podcast just started year 8 in January. The first guest I had on 8 years ago was Sam Messman. I've been doing it for 8 years, have 2-point-something million podcast downloads between my two podcasts. We're working on 3 million downloads, just as the audio version, of course. And I just started my 8th year. Continuous, no breaks, and I'll keep it going for the foreseeable future. I don't anticipate stopping. Anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Go over there on YouTube, subscribe, Richard Taylor TV. Give me a thumbs up. I'll talk to everybody later.